The deadline has passed now, and over 200 people have applied. Those applications we're now going to whittle down to a final 12. This is in our search for 2 people to fill 2 sales jobs with the Dublin-based company HiberniaEvros. And by the end of this week, a final shortlist of 6 candidates will have been drawn up. And here to tell us more about the recruitment process thus far is Colm Buckley from the Recruiters, the People Group. And Colm, first of all, tell us about the applications. Were they all fully completed with cover letters and properly typed?
I'm afraid not, John. The standard was pretty good in terms of CVs.
Are we talking about, just to clear it up, we're talking about all online CVs essentially?
Yes, indeed. All of the applications that we received were to our website. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, only about 10% of candidates placed a cover letter on the front of the CV. There was also a comments box on our website, so there was a facility there to obviously sell their skills and give us a reason why they should be considered.
And are you saying a cover letter is essential, that you would expect anybody sending in their CV? So they just in other words, what you're saying is they just banged in their CV without a cover letter explaining the job, why they were interested in it?
Correct, yeah.
10% of applicants?
About 10%, yeah. I mean, I suppose one of the things that is bandied about these days with CVs is to have a USP, a unique selling proposition, a mission statement as to what you can bring to the table.
Yeah.
A cover letter is an ideal opportunity to really personalise yourself and place yourself in that job. So, I mean...
Sort of say, I heard about the job, I'm really enthusiastic about it, and there's a CV here.
Yeah.
I hope you give it your due attention. And
absolutely.
And that only 1 in 10 applicants thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, and the other flip side of that as well is when you go for an interview with a recruiter or with a company, if they give you a business card, send them a thank you note.
Yeah,
that rarely happens.
Simple stuff.
Rarely happens. I don't know. Is it a symptom of the 20s to 30s generation of texting and automated processes? I don't know. I mean, you're talking to somebody that got an iPod last Christmas, and I still haven't. And I'm a music buff, and I still haven't loaded music.
Yeah, but most of the people they're dealing with, the recruiters they're dealing with, would be a little bit older, so they must take in this sort of basic manners.
Yes.
And what other types of mistakes were made in the application process? Give some examples.
I'd have to say overall the CVs were pretty good. I think people did take heed of spelling mistakes and grammatical mistakes. Some had photos on them. No need for photos. If you have a face for radio like me, leave the photo off.
So no photos necessary.
In general,
is that not a nice personal touch now?
I think give your personal touch in terms of your mission statement or your cover letter, but keep your CV professional.
Okay, no photographs.
Some CVs had dates out of sync, so the CV didn't flow naturally. So there were gaps, or they were
unexplained gaps.
2 jobs at the same time.
Okay.
And then use of different tenses throughout jobs, so past tense and present tense, and
that just becomes a bit of a pain to read.
It is. But overall the standard was pretty good.
Now, how many of the 200 applicants were unemployed?
About 60% of if I talk about the John Murray 12, as it were, that have been interviewed today by John and HiberniaEvros, about 60%.
This is the short list of 12 now.
Yeah.
Who
we went pretty hard on everybody. We interviewed them for about a minimum of 45 minutes, having gone through their CV, and that is the ones that we shortlisted. It was about 45 people, and we didn't discern between people being employed or unemployed, so we chose the best we could. So it was quite good,
So what's the breakdown between those who haven't been in, or those who aren't in work, and those who are moving or who plan to move?
Well, about 40% of the final 12 are currently in employment, if you like. Interesting statistic was I think I mentioned last Friday that about 10 to 15% of the respondents were female.
Yeah.
40% of the final 12
are female. That's interesting.
So the standard was very high.
So the proportion of women who've made it to the final cut very high.
Yeah, and I personally interviewed about 4 of them out of the 5 that have made it to the end. And I must say, I was very impressed.
I see.
They certainly listened to Sonia in terms of dress sense. They were professional. They turned up early. They'd done their research on HiberniaEvros.
And is it the case that some people who actually had been called for interview didn't bother turning up at all?
We had 4 people that didn't show. No phone call, no postcard, nothing.
Just ducked out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And is that fairly common?
It does happen, yeah.
Yeah. Now, what type of backgrounds are we talking about now among the applicants and indeed the shortlist now?
Again, good mix, variety of backgrounds. There's somebody from financial services, people with construction backgrounds, telecommunications companies, some people from IT, hotels, and somebody who's currently in education.
Right, okay. And so at this stage, it's a fairly typical it's been a fairly standard process.
Yeah, I'd have to say it's fairly reflective.
200 applicants, a fairly decent return.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I would say. I mean, I think people, the fact that it was a sales job, some people may have felt that they didn't have the experience for that, But
And the bulk of the applicants are in the 20s and 30s, is it?
I would say the bulk are in the 20s and the 30s. Yeah.
Even in the shortlist now?
The shortlist, the oldest person is about 37.
Okay.
The youngest is about 22.
Is that now? What was the oldest applicant for the job?
Has good sales background, comes from a B2B.
No, but what was the person, the oldest person to apply for the job?
The oldest person to apply for the role who we interviewed was in their late 50s, early 60s.
Late 50s, okay, but they haven't made the cut.
No.
Yeah, so is it a very much a role for those in the 20s and 30s, or is that just the way it's turned out?
Well, I'd suggest probably the salary level and the actual role itself, and the fact that it's developing through the organisation would probably attract people in their 20s and their 30s.
Okay, so what's happening now today? You mentioned that John in HiberniaEvros is going to interview the 12.
He's taken over our offices today, and he's going to interview 6 today and 6 tomorrow. And out of that, he will. I would hope he will have 5 or 6 people that he's. So
how many men and many women?
7 blokes,
7
and
men,
5 ladies,
5 women. Okay,
yeah.
And he's going to do those interviews with others. Will you be on the interview panel?
He's currently doing those with one of his team.
Okay.
So I think he wanted to do that himself and have an impartial view of each candidate.
Right, and it'll be whittled down to a smaller number then.
Of 5 or 6 by the end of the week.
Yeah,
and we can.
Then we'll hopefully
have a chat with some of them and
on the show in the weeks ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at this stage, it's fairly promising in terms of the sort of people. John was anxiously looking. I think he was making the point that they're expanding, his company is expanding, and they need people, to give a sort of 5-year commitment. These are no sort of makey up jobs.
Absolutely. He's looking for positive, energetic, enthusiastic, driven people who will help him to bring his company to the next level. Absolutely.
Okay, well look, Colm, we'll keep an eye on it next week. Hopefully we'll have some of the shortlistees in after today's and tomorrow's interview process. That's Colm Buckley from the People Group. Thank you for coming in.